What's up, everyone? Andrew here. We're going to be building a crowdfund app today. So you can think of something like Kickstarter, or Indiegogo, or Republic, where you'll be able to design however you want the app to look, and there's going to be no fees taken on top as well because we're building this on top of crypto rails. And so the inspiration here actually comes from this mini app on Farcaster, which, if you don't know what Farcaster or mini apps are, it's basically, imagine if you had apps built into Twitter. All right. And so they have crowdfunds here where someone can come in and say, hey, I want to raise $300, and people can then go and contribute, and there's a little feed here, right? It's a great app, right? But you might want to have your app be maybe a little more expressive or feel a different way. But we can rely on the same contracts that the Seed Club team have deployed to do this. If you haven't used Herd before or haven't heard of Herd before, we're a brand new, block explorer. We call it a co-terminal that has all contracts, LLM summarized, and also has something called trails to use to go and build any kind of app automation, anything else, right? And a trail is really just a linear set of functions to be called. You can think of it as a Zapier, but much simpler than Zapier. And if you go to docs.herd.eco, there are a bunch of videos and tutorials and documentation on how to use Herd as Explorer, how to understand Herd trails, and building a simple app with them with a simple trail, and API references, everything else as well. We also do have a Discord, so please join the Discord if you have questions or have anything cool you want to share. There's going to be two trails we need here. There's a create and manage crowdfund trail for actually deploying the crowdfund, and then there is a donation trail. And if in case the crowdfund fails, the users can claim their refunds. So we're actually going to be building the app on top of the donation side, but we need to go and actually create the crowdfund first for us to be able to do so, right? So in case you're wondering how I found these trails, obviously I created them, but you could always go to all trails, search crowdfund, and then you can just go to the overlook side, which is where the executions of the transactions actually happen. We'll cover the Canvas side later in the video for how the crowdfund trails were actually created. The first thing we need to do is actually probably help you better understand a little about what is actually happening here. So I can actually just go to the Explorer page on Herd, because we've built a whole LLM-based block explorer. And if I go to the functions on this contract, I can see there's really two functions being called: create crowdfund and donate. And so if I went to the create crowdfund page, I can see that I can input some fundraising target in USDC, some duration in seconds, and then some crowdfund ID will actually be returned. I can see the most recent transactions that actually call this function. I already opened this one up earlier, where I can see that this user is calling create crowdfund. They set a target of 300 USDC and 85,920 seconds. And it emits an event here that tells us the funding target, which again, you might be like, oh, this isn't 300 USDC. It is if you divide by 6 decimals. And then an end timestamp, which if I go to Unix timestamp, I can just see this is 18 hours from now, roughly. And then they use a hash, a content ID hash, we won't be. And there is a creator. And that's all we need to know there. So I'm just going to start walking the trail. I'm going to say I want to raise, let's say I just want to raise 5 USDC. And instead of seconds, in the trail, I already converted this nicely to days, so it's easier to math around. And let me just say I want this to go for 14 days. So I can now just hit confirm. And we're now going to call the actual contract. You see there's this confirmation here to say, hey, is this what you actually want to send? And we can actually click simulate as well if you want to check before you send it that this is actually going to work. right? So I can see, okay, it succeeded. It's going to run for 14 days. Didn't do any transfers. I can always open up the simulated transaction page as well, just to check, my crowdfund ID should actually be 3301. And everything else looks great here, so I can just go ahead and confirm. And I'm now going to send this to my wallet, and then we're going to go and send this on chain. We'll wait for it to finish sending. And great, so the transaction results have been sent. This is now going to take a second for our LLM and API to process the transaction hash. All right, I can see that it has sent now, and if I open this transaction hash, it says 14 days, 5 USDC target, and then, it's active at this crowdfund ID, 3301. You can see it's actually pretty much exactly the same as simulated. We don't need the simulated anymore. And so now we've created this crowdfund, and we actually, in the next step in the trail, it's claim funds, but there's no point in calling that now because no one's donated, and the crowdfund hasn't ended yet. But I can check the details with these read functions. So I can see here, total amount raised, 0, yada, 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 creator, claimed, etc. And then I can also check here how many donors there are for the campaign. Obviously right now it is 0, right? So you could build an app around the crowdfund side as well, but again, today we're just focused on helping you create a crowdfund app around the actual one crowdfund that you created. So cool. And all we've done so far is just create the crowdfund ID, right? We haven't actually set any text or any other metadata because we're just going to do that in the site itself, right? But you have to create the crowdfund first with the actual targets and on-chain logic. Great. And there's going to be also steps in here for after you claim. Let's say you wanted to actually split the funds with a bunch of other people. There is a step for doing that as well, but we will not be covering that in this video. Great. So now let's cover the donation side. So all this is letting someone donate USDC to the crowdfund, right? And so all it's going to be is someone saying they want to donate, 1 USDC, and we have our crowdfund ID here, right? And I can go simulate this, and it's actually going to fail because it does not have an approval, right? So the first thing we need to actually do is make sure that people approve how much they want to donate to the crowdfund contract. Great, so now I've actually added an approve step in here, and let's say I want to donate, 50 cents. I'm going to go and confirm that I want to donate 50 cents. So I'm going to send this in my wallet. And then as soon as this has confirmed, I'm going to go here, and now in the donation step, I'm going to also donate 50 cents to the crowdfund that we just created, which again, I can come back here and check. Either here to get the ID, or I can go here to get the ID. It is 3301, right? And now if I simulate this, it should succeed, and I can see that there is a balance change from my address, and I also actually get transferred an ERC 721 for doing this donation. And if you wanted to better understand how this works, you can just go to the Crowdfund Explorer page, go to the donate page, and you can actually see how this is working. And now if I look at the simulation details of what actually happened, I can see that donate was called by me, and it transfers an NFT, mints the NFT, and then make sure to transfer my donation to the contract. And then ultimately there's also this donation received event that says what crowdfund was donated to, right? So let's actually go and let me just confirm this and send this on chain. I'm doing this before creating the app because we can actually still reuse this data and see this data in the app itself. And it's normally just a lot easier to build around data that already exists. All right, so now we're actually going to go and create the app. So to start with our app, every trail has an API. And this API takes care of everything from actually calling the value here to get the approval call data, to calling a read node to get someone's balance, to actually managing the transaction history of what steps they've completed, maybe creating a feed from that. And if you're not a developer, don't worry. We have something called a guidebook. And the guidebook is essentially this LLM's text file that explains everything about how the API works and teaches the LLM or whatever tool you're using how to actually build apps with it, scripts, whatever you want. And if you want to know more about the guidebook or the API, you can always go to our documentation. You can look at the API reference, or you could go to the guidebook tab here, which actually explains what is in the prompt itself. And the guidebook, if I want to just show you, is going to be in here. We're going to first have to create an app name. This is not actually coding the app. This is just creating a name for the app, which we'll build in another tool. So I'll just call it dog donation crowdfund. And once I have an app name, I'll choose what I want to build, which is miniapp in this case on Farcaster. And if you just copy this link here, you'll see that it's literally just a text file that has a bunch of information about how to build with the API, how to build in crypto, how to set up the miniapp, and then also how the trail works. But before we go and paste that, we're actually going to fork this trail because we might as well just hard code your crowdfund ID directly into the trail instead of having it be something you have to input. And there's many reasons for this. Another reason is because if other people build on the same trail, you're going to end up seeing their donations in there, and you might not want that. So you're just going to click View, which is going to take you to the canvas, and you're just going to click Fork. And I'm just going to call this dog donation crowdfund. Kind of remove the rest. And it doesn't really matter what you have. And all we're going to do is, this is the step-by-step of the trail. You don't have to really understand everything going on here. Just follow my lead. You're going to go click the donate step, and you're clicking edit inputs. And then we're going to change crowdfund ID from a user input to creator hard-coded, which just means that you can't change it, no one can change it later. And so remember, the crowdfund ID actually comes from our first step here where we created the crowdfund. There's actually a read node here where I can see the fundraising target, et cetera, and this has the crowdfund ID here, which was 3301. So if I go back here, I'm just going to hard code this in here, and then there's a few other places here that I also want to just hard code it. These are all crowdfund ID. So again, just change it from user input to creator hard-coded. Yada, 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 change it again. And now that they all have 3301, and this one as well, we will also make it 3301. We've now updated everything so that this works specifically for our crowdfund. So I can now go and publish this. And it takes me over here. It shows the trail I originally forked. And now it has this very specific trail just for my specific crowdfund. So now let's take the guidebook, click the dog donation crowdfund app, and we're going to go use V0 as our AI tool of choice. I've personally just like how V0's models work as well as their developer experience. So we can just say, I want to build a dog crowdfund app where the funds will go to the Brooklyn ACC, which is actually where I adopted my dog. Please follow all of the steps for implementation in this file. I just paste this here and it'll know to go and call the API. So all I have to do now is just hit enter and let it do its work. You can use any AI tool. You could use Replit, Lovable, Cursor, Claude. It really depends on like what your preferences are and like your level of how technical you are as well. Just because you start in V0 doesn't mean you're tied to V0. We'll be able to create a GitHub repo and whatnot so that you can easily move between tools if you want as well. So you can see it's going through and starting to think about like what it needs to do. There's like some steps that it needs to set up, and now it's going to start doing the code. So at this point, you can just go and grab a coffee, and it'll make a little like cute ding ding sound when it's done. So just wait until it's done and let it do all the hard work. All right, so it has finished. It says use an integration. Don't worry about that. And we can see it's got a bunch of errors, but let's just first create the GitHub repo. I'll just say all repositories. And now I'm going to say I want to call this dog adoption crowdfund. And so we're creating a GitHub repository so we can easily version control the code in case the LLM does something really dumb and deletes a bunch of things. And we can also easily use this GitHub repository to kind of hop between Cursor or Claude or anything else as well. So you're not tied to like only using V0. All right, so if you don't understand GitHub, don't worry about it. Just follow these steps. It will be worth setting up. And now we can go and actually publish this, which is going to deploy this as an app. Says it's missing some import. Let's just ignore this. So we're going to publish it. Vercel is actually one of the most popular kind of web app hosting platforms out there. So this is already built into a very kind of secure and standard provider. So we'll just let it publish. And again, the theme of the next 20 minutes or so is just going to be that you tell the LLM or Vercel or something to do something, and then you just have to sit and wait for like a couple minutes. So welcome to being an engineer. So now it's published. We have our link here. I can just copy this. We can go back to Farcaster. I'll drag this here since we're going to be going back and forth a lot. I can go to the developer section and preview a URL as a miniapp. Just paste it in here, open it up, and hopefully it should connect our wallet. And it doesn't, which is totally fine. If it doesn't work on the first try, it's okay. So we're going back to V0 now, and we're going to ask it, make sure to closely follow the Farcaster wallet setup instructions from the guidebook, the URL posted earlier. Now, sometimes it might not do so well with the link because maybe the text in the link is actually too long and it's being lazy and not pulling all the text. So you can always just paste the prompt in here as well. I've pasted it here for you too. Because again, a lot of these LLM tools will try and cut different corners around context, which just means the amount of like text that's being fed through it. And so to make it not skip that, sometimes you just have to paste the whole thing in there. And you can see it's like reading like 100 lines at a time, basically. Like it's really trying to just like chunk it. Again, some apps, AI apps do this well, some don't do it as well. It really also depends on the task as well. It's like, so it's kind of luck based because it's trying to just like read what's in the prompt or read like what you say by like keywords. So then if like me saying Farcaster in here specifically, hopefully the keyword pattern matching does much better than it doing the first pass earlier. So now we are getting into the cycle of having to go between publishing and prompting. So we're just going to have it go and publish again. If you don't want to wait for this long publishing period each time, you can pull this from GitHub into Cursor and use something called ngrok. It's more technical. I will have a different video on this later. We'll also be doing office hours and everything in like, you know, well, not just office hours, but like anytime you need help with anything in the Discord. So you can always go to the Discord for Herd and ask any questions about like, hey, I'm stuck here, or hey, this is broken here, or like, I don't know how to set this up. You can just reach out in the Discord and the team will be there to help you out. All right, so let's see if we've at least fixed this error. All right, progress. It's done the first step of just connecting the wallet. And you can see there's a few steps in here. There's donate with approving donation and claiming a refund. We don't want to show it like this, so we'll come back to that. Looks like there's a community section here that shows the stats for each step. We're also going to clean that up. And then there's also stats on your history. So we'll clean this up as well as there's a failed to load crowdfund data. So the way to think about this is you want to split things into tasks for the LLM, and you're going to have to help it debug along the way. And the best way of helping it debug is by giving examples. So the first thing we're going to actually want to do is just kind of see what errors. The first thing we're going to want to do is see what errors there are. And let's just tackle one of the most annoying ones first, is if it failed to fetch the data. And so I'm going to say, let's fix the crowdfund data section. It should make a request to, let's just look at what data we had again here. This was the original donation that we forked. This is the one we want to check. So we're going to want to show, well, I'm not on that step yet, so. So we're going to want to show some of the data here around the crowd funds, which was showing how much, let me just skip this step so we can easily show here. The crowd fund here, we wanted 5 USDC. You saw me donate 50 cents earlier. I've donated another $1 through other testing. And it's still going for, probably 13 more days or so. And we will also want to show the number of donors, which there's been 2, because again, I was testing. And we will also want to show for my address how much I've donated. So I actually have donated 50 cents from this address. So to start few shot prompting, it's easiest if you go and click submit, and you can click copy prompt. And if you went to like a page to paste this in, you can see it's literally just telling the LLM, hey, here's how you make a request. Here's what an example response looks like. So it like more accurately can figure out what bugs there are. So let's actually just start there. Let's start by having a progress bar of the funds raised and show how much time is left until it ends. See this example call. Now I just paste that in there and it'll be able to reference it. And I'll also say this should load before / regardless of if the user has a connected wallet or not. You can just use the null address for requests. So, because we want people to be able to see the crowdfund progress before they're even like connected or doing anything. So it says that it has gone and apparently fixed it, but I can see there's a 422. There's a few ways around this. You can just keep clicking fix with V0 and hoping that it figures it out. Or a little more technical, but you can click inspect and then go to the network tab. And you'll actually be able to see in red anything that's failing. So I can actually look here and I'll see, in this case, it expected an app ID, but it's missing, right? And this is in the guidebook. And so it should actually be able to figure this out, but I will just give it a little help. Make sure to include the Trail app ID in the header. Let's see. See the guidebook text earlier for the ID. And you can just push it up. Again, these are things where Cursor would actually do a better job of V0 here, because Cursor will go and Claude will go and try and do the API requests to see what the bugs are. But with V0, it's a little more of a beginner tool, so you have to kind of guide it a little more, right? So now it says, okay, now I've added it in. However, still failing. Again, this is perfectly fine. I'm just going to go into here and see what the error is. There's a bunch of requests that Vercel makes. And here we go. Now it says it's still missing. And I can indeed see, again, this might not make any sense to you, but I can indeed see that, it's a little things, but it says X trail app ID, it needs to be herd app ID. This needs to be herd trail app ID. See the guidebook text from earlier. And sometimes it'll be just removing things from context, so then you just have to paste it again. I pasted it again here. Okay, so after pasting it for the third time, it has fixed it. It says we've raised $1.5 of the $5 goal. Bit redundant, and the time left is here. And it says campaign ended, which is false. So I'll say, hey, the campaign. Well, actually, there's a few ways to do this. One is I think I can have design mode and just say delete this. Can I click multiple things? I can. So I can say delete this. It'll go and delete it. It's going to take some seconds, but it'll get there. And now we're actually also going to go and delete this. But we want to replace this with the amount that the connected wallet has donated. So again, we have to go into here Or actually, let's do the donate account instead. That feels like a good one. That with the number of donors to the crowdfund. See the example request. Remember to include the trail app ID header. Again, for LLMs, you just need to be really careful and always telling it exactly what it needs to do. Okay, let's see. It's got, yeah, 2 donors. It's figured that out, right? And now we haven't deployed it yet, but we can look back here and remember there's also 3 steps. I don't want to show the claim refund step, but I also want to combine these 2 steps. So let's now say for the steps, we only want to show the approve and donate steps, and they should also be shown in one component with approve and donate buttons next to each other where you must approve first. So that is going to clean up this step here. For your own stats, doesn't really matter. We're probably going to delete that. And then for community activity, we're going to ask it to show it as a donation feed instead. All right, so I might as well just queue that up. Please show the community section as a donation feed instead. You can use the donate read node to get the amount they donated with the transaction, right? So again, remember that on donate, there's actually a read function here that shows how much was donated in that transaction. I haven't submitted anything here yet, so there's nothing there yet. I can just clean this up. So we won't be able to see the edits that's made yet because I need to have my wallet connected. There are ways around it where you can say just like, hey, you should actually just show the form directly so we can click through it. And I might as well actually just say that now. Also, just show the step component and community component by default, even if wallet is not connected yet. Again, if you ask it something like this and it like hallucinates because it can't find the donate read node or whatever you're talking about, you always can just go back to the trail and like run it yourself and then click the prompt and bring that into V0 as well. So it's just a lot of like, how do you provide it the best examples so it can actually like figure out what it needs to do. Otherwise, its default is going to be, I'm going to make something up, which is not great. So. Okay, so we now have this. It's getting better. There's a few other things we would want to do here. For available, if not connected, just show 0 for now. And then for here, we're getting a 404. All right, so let's actually go and see, again, what the error actually is. And the easiest way is always just to see, here's the error. So let's see. Looks like it's trying to completely just muck up how the call works. So, okay, we're actually going to come back to that after we have made an approval and a donation. Again, we can ignore this. Because again, this is why I made the test donation earlier, but I did it on another trail. I should have done it on this forked trail so that we have the data to play with and it's easier to debug. And again, this is just part of the process of coding. Is you're not going to make everything perfect right at the start. It's a lot of like, okay, this component works, half of the rest of it's broken. Let me go to the next one, just keep tweaking it until it works, go to the next one again. And so we'll test this out, make sure this donation works. Then we'll have the data to go here and debug it. So once again, we'll just wait for this to publish. Okay, and you'll see it's deployed now. If I go back here, I can, just to make sure the data is fresh, let me just refresh this page. All right, and we'll open up the mini app again, and we'll see now that it correctly loads in my balance. I've actually already done an approval to this crowdfund before, so it says I've already done an approval, but I can just say, let's just say I want to approve like another 30 cents. I can go reapprove this, and then after that, I can go and click donate. And this is going to go and send 30 cents to the crowdfund. Now you'll notice that we still don't have a feed here yet. And also this did not update upon submission, right? So there's a few things we want to fix up here. I'll show if I reload it actually, like this did actually update. It's just that we didn't tell the front end to do that, right? So a few things we're going to want to change on the V0 side. So we want to make a few more changes. You don't have to say this, I just like to. One, when the donation transaction is sent, make sure to reload the components for the overview and the community feed. And then also, it's a little confusing to show approval complete all the time. So we don't have to show the approval complete text box. Just make the approve button dimmer. It can still be used to re-approve if clicked. Can make the color change brighter on hover. Should add a toast after the donate submission that says, "Thanks for helping out the dogs of Brooklyn." So we'll have it go through this. While we're at it, we might as well fix the feed. So let's just see what the error is here. So if I go to network, and again, this works on both here or over here because the wallet connection doesn't actually matter. I can see, yes, it was basically just making things up here. And to get the feed here for when we're trying to read the nodes, we need to allow it to read a donation. So I can't read it from here because my connected wallet is different. However, you can actually impersonate an address. So I can go to transactions in the top left and impersonate this guy. Where it actually looks like it's not correctly sending the donation back to our API. So we're going to do some fun debugging here. If I go to base scan and I get the donate transaction, I should be able to just paste it back in here and it will correctly set it. Now that means that there is an error where we are not submitting the donation. So that's the first thing I'm going to say. Make sure you are also submitting the donate transaction back to the executions API. This is just so that we can track on Herd what transactions were sent. All right, so like if you don't want to, you don't have to send the transaction back to us, but for like something multi-step like this where you want it to show up on the feed, then you do have to make sure that there is actually a transaction sent back to our API. So we've added it back here for now, so that now when I'm impersonating this wallet, so now when I'm impersonating this wallet, I can see that this did succeed and that there is this read function here that actually gets like the donation inputs and outputs, in which case we only need the input in this case. We could also create a read function based off of the USDC transfer event, but that's kind of overkill. So let's take this. I'm going to assume it's saying it did logging for the save execution call, so we'll come back to that. But I'm going to say also fix up the community feed. Make sure to run this read node on each transaction in the donate step. So it says it's fixed it. However, it does not look like it did. So let's go to the network tab again. It's going to do all this loading. We can actually just put Herd in here to easily see the Herd. And I can see the response data here. So I'm literally just going to copy this in and be like, hey, it's showing up with nothing in the app. You should be using totals.step_stats, and it's going to be step 2 for the donate to get the right transactions. And great. Now we can see it is actually showing the right donation amount of 30 cents here. And we can publish this one more time so it's publicly correct. And with that, a lot of rough edges still to fix up. The donation cycle could be a lot nicer. This could be all much more custom and fun. Like, you don't really have to show all these stats. You can get much more creative about it. But with this, we can now go and take our app link. And remember the trail app that we created earlier? I can go to my apps, and this is same on the side here. And for the dog donation crowdfund, I can now add in the URL. And I can say, hey, basic template for creating a crowdfund. And I will actually link the V0 chat in here as well. I'll make this public. And we'll soon have this surfaced, like these apps surfaced on top of the trails as well, so that it's super simple for anyone to see, like, oh, for this dog donation crowdfund trail, like what was the app that, like what are the apps built on top of it? So with that, that is everything you need really to start building an app on top of a trail. This one is, again, more complex than the coffee one, and in some ways actually more complex than like some other tutorials we've done, like the splits token one, because we had to manage state here, where the steps are dependent on each other. The data is a lot more dependent in terms of like seeing how much was raised and whatnot. But with this, we've covered a ton of herd features. We've covered a ton of V0 features. This is a pretty realistic look at what it's like to vibe code today. Again, if you guys get stuck at any point, reach out to me and the team on Twitter, on Farcaster, on Discord, read our docs. We are here to help you. So that's it.